Breaking situation in Brazil. Thousands of supporters of ousted former President Bolsonaro storming the presidential and congressional buildings. The scenes reminiscent of January 6th here in the U.S.
Do these look familiar? Well, there's a reason. Right-wingers in Brazil claiming, and I'm not kidding, that the election was stolen and voting machines were fixed, have invaded and ransacked Brazil's Congress, the presidential palace, and their Supreme Court in a not-so-coincidental reminder of the January 6th, 2021 U.S. Capitol insurrection by armed terrorists under the orders of former President Trump. This insurrection, which lasted about 3 hours, is not a coincidence. This is a new president, a leftist, who was narrowly elected in November. And this is the old president, a conservative, who claims the election was stolen. And this shouldn't surprise anybody, but Steve Bannon is in the middle of it. Bannon tweeted, "Brazilian freedom fighters," and he wrote, "The election was stolen. Brazilians know that. Release the machines." Across several episodes of his War Room podcast and in social media, Bannon and his guests stoked up allegations of a stolen election in Brazil and these shadowy forces at work. He promoted the hashtag Brazilian Spring and continues to encourage opposition even after Bolsonaro seems ready to accept the results. Here's the timeline. Back in November, Bolsonaro's supporters held rallies across the country asking for an armed forces intervention. No, General Mike Flynn, who did the same thing here, wasn't there. At least I don't think so. Bolsonaro challenged the results of the Brazilian election and argued that votes from some of the machines should be invalidated in a complaint that was later rejected by election authorities. Again, you'll love this. Bolsonaro has yet to concede. In December, Lula's election victory was certified by the Federal Electoral Court. But later that day, Bolsonaro supporters attempted to invade the federal police headquarters in the capital. Protesters have also condemned the shutting down of many pro-Bolsonaro accounts that were spreading lies and inciting violence on social media.
Let me ask you, should I keep the Twitter going or not? Keep it going?
Twitter permanently banning the commander-in-chief's personal account with 88 million followers after an initial 12-hour lockout following Wednesday's riots at the U.S. Capitol.
Lula was sworn in as the president on January the 1st, where he said democracy was the true winner of the presidential election. Then 7 days later, this.
But the rioters left a trail of destruction. Bolsonaro supporters smashing windows, throwing furniture, and fighting with police in the nearly 5-hour uprising. Security forces fired tear gas to try to quell the violence. The people storming the government buildings in Brazil's capital city of Brasilia, demanding that Bolsonaro, who lost his re-election bid in October, be reinstated as president.
Bannon's rhetoric in this election is almost identical to the claims made in the wake of Trump's loss in 2020.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow.
Similar to then, Bolsonaro supporters in Brazil have made baseless allegations about voting machine irregularities. In Brazil, these bullshit allegations became the basis for frivolous lawsuits, similar to the lawsuits filed by Sidney Powell and Giuliani and others here in the U.S. after Biden's victory. So while the entire Republican Party isn't saying shit, Bannon, who has had many Republican members of Congress on his War Room show and famously predicted the events of January the 6th,
it's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen,
is now advising Bolsonaro's son, who's been working behind the scenes, calling on Bolsonaro supporters to not accept the results of this election. To be clear, a former top advisor in the Trump administration is organizing a coup in a democratic country. Ali Alexander, founder of Stop the Steal, is involved as well, claiming he was working with a freedom cell in Brazil. Alexander also called for the Brazilian military to intervene in the election, exactly what Trump planned with indicted and convicted former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn a month before the Capitol insurrection. But the similarity between our right wing of Bolsonaro's Brazil goes way beyond claims of election interference. Last year, the NRA, the National Rifle Association, lobbied hard to change gun ownership laws in Brazil, at the same time promoting U.S. manufactured guns to Bolsonaro's supporters. This is the Putin playbook, orchestrated to a T in 2016. Disrupt democracies around the world through lies and violence.
Okay, it's going to be quite extraordinarily different. And all I can say is strap in.
It happened here during the Trump election and again in 2021, and it was behind Brexit and the attempt to break up NATO. It happened in Ukraine, and now it's happening in Brazil. Trump, Bannon, Flynn, Manafort, and the Coup GOP never stopped, and they won't till they're in prison. So where is Bolsonaro, the former president, while his supporters attempt to dismantle his nation's democracy? Well, he's staying in Florida, of course.
To make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy.
Thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe and follow us on YouTube at Really American.